r/AskReddit. What is the scariest thing you've ever seen while driving at night? A dead, butchered horse laying in the road. Someone had completely skinned and butchered a horse. Took the choice pieces of meat and just dumped it on the highway. I almost crashed into it. WTF. Where are you? Horse meat isn't much of a thing in North America. I used to deliver pizza and often had deliveries right at midnight when we closed. One time, late at night, I'm driving back to the store through a small neighborhood. Up ahead I see something. It's perfectly spherical, bright, shiny thing. Just hovering about 6 feet off the ground. Not moving at all. I pull up very slowly. Still doesn't move. Still can't comprehend what I'm looking at. Just this shiny hovering orb in the road at midnight. At this point my curiosity has overridden my fear. I'm the guy in the horror movie who dies first because I just gotta know. Either I die or I get a cool story. Right? So I hop out of the car and slowly walk up to it. I'm right in front of it and still can't understand what I'm seeing. So I reach out and touch it. It's a balloon. One of those foil birthday balloons with the streetlights shining on it, making it look weird out of context in the middle of the night on an empty road. This is my favorite response because it feels like exactly how I would react. Yep. Had a few of these moments in my life where it's like for a moment my brain has temporarily disconnected all memories that would place the object, and I'm left in a state of complete childlike wonder. And then my brain comes back online, and all I can do is laugh. A hitchhiker almost leaping out in front of my car on a dark forest road late at night. The woman literally popped out of nowhere. Had to drift into the oncoming lane. Luckily there was no one else and painted median there. Read a police report that she ended up getting hit minutes after I drove by. She was intoxicated and running from the police. Pretty ducking creepy. I hope she's alright. I can't imagine what the driver that hit her was thinking. Had a similar thing, but it was a suicide attempt. He put his shirt over his head so he couldn't see and jumped out in front of our car. We missed him by inches. Also we were young, dumb and drunk. We would have been jailed for years, I'm sure. Having someone jump in front of my car is one of my greatest fears. Anytime there's someone walking along the side of the road I get tense and watch them like a hawk. The psychological stress something like that would bring is unimaginable for me. Not to mention the potential of getting in legal trouble if the law found you at any sort of fault. While traveling east just outside Flagstaff, Arizona around midnight, I was in the fast lane doing about 80 miles per hour. There was a bend in the road and you could see the headlights of the westbound lanes filter in between the trees. It was funny because I thought the lights kinda looked like they were coming at me. Then they really were. I screamed obscenities and jerked the wheel just in time to let a speeding wrong way driver fly by me in the lane I was just in. After skidding to a stop in the shoulder I called the cops to report it. Could you describe the vehicle? Yes. It was a dark blur with headlights. Wait, did they literally go through the median filled with trees? How does that even happen? No. They must have gotten onto the interstate from an off-ramp. The lights from the other direction were dim and somewhat far away as the highway was divided by about 100 feet. When I saw the headlights coming for me I briefly thought it was from the other side of the highway, but I realized just in time that it was a collision course. Driving to work at 4:30 AM and seeing a cyclist with his head split open and brains on the road. My friend and I were walking home at about 2 AM one night about 15 years ago. We see this car going in the opposite direction. Clearly going way past the speed limit. As he is passing us, we see him go up on the curb and hit someone walking on the opposite sidewalk, decapitating them. This was before we had cell phones and everything was closed because it was such a tiny town. We ran as fast as we could to the nearest house, about 15-20 minutes away, and banged on their door until they opened it so we could call the cops. I still see it in my sleep sometimes. Hold up. What? I was driving on the expressway around 2 AM and a semi hit a car and it went into the median. The car basically folded into itself and was beyond smashed. I can't imagine that person survived. It was incredibly sad and terrifying to see. Before my parents moved to where I am, I'd often visit my hometown up north. A 10-hour drive all on the same highway. Made that trip several times and there was almost always some tragic crash at least once during the drive. I'm not super religious but I got in the habit of saying a prayer for them and their families. Hate seeing that. That's a long drive. It's really terrifying to see crashes like that because it really could happen to anyone. A lonely abandoned shack with a bunch of arrows pointing to it, saying come in. Bruh. Although these types of traps only exist in cartoons. With a bowl of seeds labeled free bird food. See? No one really notices the big boulder over the bowl. I slammed the brakes once because I saw deer in my peripheral vision. Upon closer inspection, it was a mounted deer head on a stick in the middle of the woods. Slammed the gas after I realized that might have been a setup by game wardens to catch illegal poachers at night. What do they do? Sit somewhere and watch, or do they usually have cameras set up? Frogs. Ducking. Everywhere. Like hundreds of frogs all over the road. Damn it Moses. Damn it Kermit. I was a very young woman driving home after clubbing. About 2 AM through Hollywood. I was pulling up to a stop sign on Cahuenga. About 3 blocks from Hollywood Boulevard. When a bunch of guys begin to casually stroll onto the crosswalk. Coming from both sides. I hit the gas and ran the stop sign without even thinking. They cursed and ran after me. But those boys were ready to jack me. My instincts took over before I even realized what was happening. Yo, that is some serious hit. Jesus duck, I used to drive in that area often. That's ducking terrifying. I always keep my eyes on groups of people acting weird near quieter roads at night. It's not worth ignoring them and risking it. A 6-foot kangaroo standing in the middle of a pitch black road at 3 AM in the morning. Missed it by a bee's dick. My story is similar. I was driving along the highway at night and in the right hand lane was a giant ducking moose crossing the highway. He was taller than my car and had some huge ducking antlers. That's definitely a moose. Big and antlery. An arsehole overtaking a petrol tanker around a blind corner. Coming my way. Scared the hit out of me. I was fetching someone from his workplace. Had to go through some fields. And some parts of the road were dark. I saw a thin, long object. Wiggling at an upright position at the side of the road in front of me. Totally freaked me out. I thought I was finally experiencing something extraordinary. As I got closer I realized it was a tail of a cow. It must have escaped from some field and was hanging around at the side of the road. The cow itself was black. The tail slightly lighter in color. That's why I only saw the tail moving first without seeing the whole cow first. Oh my. Yes dear, that's just old Betty's bottom, not a ghost worm. This made me giggle. I was driving home late one night and was driving on a dark stretch of the highway. Suddenly a body was in front of me. I tried to swerve out of the way but it was too late. My bumper was hanging on the ground. The guy died. And I went to a nearby gas station not knowing what to do. Was 18. When the tow truck pulled my car up onto it. There were a bunch of blood and guts on the bottom. I couldn't get that image out of my head. Apparently a drunk driver with 5 DWIs had hit a guy on the motorcycle prior. For years after I had serious depression and thought about it every night before sleep. That's awful. I can't imagine that. So sorry. Thank you. I think for the most part I've gotten past it. But it was rough for a long time and was hard to deal with everyday life. I don't know if this is really scary. But it definitely freaked me out for a moment. Driving home from grad lab for a couple hours of sleep. About 4 in the morning, longish. Time sensitive experiment. Not dawn yet. Still pitch black. Turn a corner. And suddenly, someone runs into the street right in front of my car and stops. I stop. I wait. They don't move. Cautiously, I try to drive around. They scream. Run up and slam their hands on the hood of my car. With them so close, I realize they are totally naked and filthy. They stare at me for a moment. Then proceeds to run in wide circles. Kinda listing to one side and the other. In front of my car. After about 2 minutes of this, he lists hard to one side. Far enough I felt safe quickly driving around them. Very wide. On the other side that was now open. Meth. Man. A body in the ditch. Thought it was a deer as I approached, and then my brain was like, deer don't wear boots. I was shaking as I did a U-turn to make sure the person was alive. They were just drunk and some people stopped as well and emergency was called. I was so shaken up by it. I was on I-70 in Colorado going towards Utah. Pulled over at a gas station at 8 p.m. Fueling up, I noticed a couple of attractive women pumping gas. On the other side of the pump was a man in his late 40s. Just staring at these young women without notice of anything else going on around him. I walk inside to go grab some food for the next few hours of driving. When I come out, I see both the younger women's car and the older man's truck are gone. I decided to hang out at the gas station for the next hour to catch a little sleep before hitting the road again. After driving for a few hours, I was speeding heavy. I pull over at yet another gas station. The young women are there getting gas and eating some food on a picnic table. Looked like they had been there for a while. I didn't see any sign of the man in the truck, but can't say I was looking very hard for it. Well, here is where it got creepy as hell. Can't say I didn't stare at them a bit. I mean, they were good looking women. As I am watching them leave, I see in the next parking lot over some headlights turn on and it's the same man as before. He leaves when the women leave once again. Okay, that's a bit weird, but could just be a coincidence as there weren't many places to pull over. I leave a few minutes later and catch up to them. Now this guy is riding their ass with his high beams on. I decided to slow down and stay a distance behind the truck. 10 minutes or so later, the women pull over once again to most likely get this guy off their ass. With a sign of relief, the truck keeps going and I continue on my way. About 1 mile down the road, the guy just pulls off to the side of the highway. So I pull off a mile or so down the road again. Sure enough, the women drive by and the guy is still following them. At this point we are out in the middle of nowhere and too many coincidences have happened. I called the cops to alert them, and about 15 minutes the cops pulled the guy over. I could have just seen too many horror movies that started like this and overreacted, but ya never know. Better safe than sorry. We appreciate you. You definitely prevented something on the range from bad to horrific happening to those women. Thank you. Thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe to RedditQueen for the best daily content.